come back to that. All right, so
Yeah.
we got the autobiographical stuff. So now I want to get into like get a little bit more autobiographical as it returns to hip hop. So here's a two-part question. How did you, growing up in New Orleans, how did you get into hip hop? And the second question is, who were your favorite rappers when you were 15?
Oh, that's easy. Let's start right there. Tupac was my favorite rapper. Yeah,
Gotcha.
Tupac absolutely was my favorite rapper when I was 15. He's probably my favorite rapper when I was 25. You know, um, I at 18 and 19 years old, I began to smoke cigarettes. And the brand of cigarettes I chose to smoke was Newport because Tupac smoked Newports. When I had my first drink, my second drink, right? And see, I can think of these things because I was never a heavy drinker. But when my first drink was at 18 years old, and a friend of mine, my best friend, a guy named Noel, he took me to a Hispanic club because he was a Hispanic brother. And he took me to a Hispanic club, and I had my first drink at 18 years old, amaretto sour, and I threw up all over myself off of amaretto sour. Now, the second drink I had, I think I was 20 years old, and I was at university at this time. And I said, I want to order a Hennessy. Why was I ordering Hennessy? If anybody ever listened to Tupac, they know that was his favorite drink, right? You know,
Thanks.
Hennessy, and he would just sing that word, you know, and rhyme it with enemies or misery, and that passion that he. So I said, I'm gonna smoke Newports and I'm gonna drink Hennessy behind Tupac, right? That was the influence that rapper had on a young, impressionable mind at 14, 15, and 16 years old when I was first introduced to his music. And not only his music, but his antics, because he was always in the news. You asked me what was my relationship with hip hop. I think I'm different than a lot of people. I'm 43. So I remember pre-gangster rap, right? I remember when hip hop was Kwame with the polka dots. I remember you know, Big Daddy Kane and Cool Mo D, Wild Wild West. Wild West. Yeah, I remember LL Cool J, I'm bad. No rapper could rap quite like I can. I take a muscle bound man and put his face in the sand. Yeah, not the last mafioso. I'm an MC cop. Make it say go LL and do the WAP. Yeah.
That's my joint. So you're talking about like getting into hip hop before. This is
Before it was
late
gangster.
80s, early 90s, before it went to the West Coast. This is before 1991.
It was okay. I was first of all, let's put it really into perspective. Hip hop wasn't even that large. So we watched MTV and Michael Jackson was the biggest thing out there, right? MTV wasn't even playing rap music like talking about. I think maybe Run DMC was on MTV, but so I grew up not thinking that the only genre of music you could listen to had to be hip hop or rap. So we grew up listening to White Snake. Yeah, we watched this on MTV. We listened to Guns N' Roses. Yeah, that was on MTV. Michael Jackson. I can remember Motown 25 when Michael Jackson pulled out the bust out the moonwalk for the first time. And my cousins and myself, you know, with socks on in the kitchen trying to do the moonwalk, right? I grew up at a time when hip hop, before it went gangster, you could listen to it in the car with your mom. Who has a problem with the Wild Wild West? Who has a problem with that, right? Who has a problem with Run DMC saying my Adidas, right? It was, you know, you didn't have to be embarrassed or ashamed for listening to that type of music. And then it went to a more radical and conscious stuff. X-Clan, To the East, My Brothers to the East, right? And Public Enemy.
You're right.
And one of my all-time favorite is Assalamu alaikum, walaikum assalam, the universal greeting of the brothers of our kind, poor righteous teachers, right? So that's the music that was my introduction to hip hop, right? I remember when hip hop went gangster. I remember going by my cousin. You talked about your cousin. I have a cousin named James who lived in Alexandria, Louisiana, and I remember him showing me Eazy-E's tape. You heard what I said? I said the tape, right? And had Eazy-E on, and he said, "Man, You know who that is? I said, no. He said, he's a gangster. With such admiration, with such enthusiasm, with such I don't know how to describe it, but when he pointed at him, I'm like, man, I gotta see what this is about, right? So I'm introduced to Eazy-E, Ice Cube, NWA, Yella, right?
Ren,
And then
all of them.
Ren, right? And then DJ Quick, MC8, right? So I'm kind of listening, but I'm like, I really don't like this music. I was just never a fan of the West Coast sound, right? So it really didn't begin to affect me. I was aware of it. It wasn't until that sound, that gangster sound, moved to the South, and I heard Scarface. Yeah. And then I heard UGK, Pocket Full of Stones. I got a pocket full of stones, getting paid, mother. I got a pocket full of stones. Yeah, I heard that. I said, man, that's different.
You got a lot of videos on it. I catch some of. I see some of the commentary. What have you? I'm not gonna say who, but people that texted me like, "Yo, what you think?" I'm like, I'm gonna talk to him. You know what I mean? Like people like, you know, because it's within our New Orleans circle, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's being discussed, whatever. It's being shared. And people are agreeing, disagreeing. People text me like, "Man, what you think?" Like, I'm a holler at them. You know what I'm saying? Because this is a conversation that need to be had. So it's a lot, right? So let's let's try to do 4 minutes. 4 minutes. I want you to lay out your argument behind the Examine Rap hashtag.
Okay, so I believe that like music plays like a vital role in the development and maintenance of culture. We have songs for every occasion in our lives. We have graduation songs, we have wedding songs, I've seen gospel songs take a person, right? And they accept Jesus, and they go from being drug dealers and strippers and gangsters and thugs and womanizers and all kind of stuff to being preachers of God's word because a song touched them and moved them, right? I believe that music plays an important role not only in moments but in movements. What would the civil rights movement be without Eyes on the Prize? What would the radical 70s be without James Brown, Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud, right? Or Marvin Gaye's What's Going On, right? So music is very instrumental. It is the soundtrack of our lives. I also know that music can be detrimental and destructive. For instance, the American Continental Army played Yankee Doodle as their unofficial theme song before they went to war. Now, you can couple that with an unsung episode that was on the Ghetto Boys, where Willie D said the first time he went to Chicago, he ran into some GDs, and the GDs told Willie, man, I'm really making music that people are killing to. So music has been used to psychologically torture prisoners of war. The CIA uses the song Rawhide as a torture technique. The prisoners at Guantanamo Bay were subjected to Enter Sandman by Metallica as a form of torture. My explicit argument is that rap music has been weaponized against Black people to erode our cultural standards, promote violence, drug use, misogyny, hypersexuality, glorification of predatory capitalism, and prison culture. And while the record companies and the distributors play a major role in the scheme, it is the rappers who are equipping the record companies and the distributors with the ammunition. Furthermore, the second part of my argument is that Mama C. Dolores Tucker and Daddy Calvin Butts were absolutely right in their assessment of the music. And we as children who lack maturity and who lack insight and who lack experience, we sided with the rappers. And we allowed Tupac and Ice Cube and Eminem to convince us that our mama and our daddy were wrong for telling us what was right and what was wrong. So a lot of the arguments that I hear, brother, is that it's not all of the rappers. It's not all rappers. Well, I'm on here with a rapper that doesn't rap like that. So I know it's not all rappers, but the bottom line is for the last 30 years, the lion's share of music that is mass produced and that is okay, I see change the screen. That's mass produced, that is being put out and topping the charts are gangster rap, drill rappers, and trap rappers. I hear other people say that it's the corporations. It's the corporations that we have to be upset with. And yes, Mama C. Dolores Tucker, she said, I'm not going after the rappers. I'm going after Interscope, the distributor, right? Those who are putting this across the nation, this poison across the nation for our people to consume, right? But when we say it's the corporations, we have to go back to the conversation we just had, right? I remember when Cash Money was a local brand, when there was no corporation, no backing, no signing, no $30 million deal with Universal, when there was just a bunch of Negroes recording Uptown and recording in Kenner, and they were distributing the music themselves and going to a local, a regional distribution out in Texas that would pass it out through Oklahoma, Louisiana, Mississippi,
Southwest Wholesale.
Southwest Wholesale, exactly, right? So when there was no white man to blame, and they were still making music about heroin and killing and selling birds, so how can we always blame it on the corporations, right? And then other people argue with me and they say, well, brother Asad, these young black men don't have any money, and you got to blame it on the white man for dangling that check in front of their face. And you know, so what would you do if you was poor and some white man gave you some money? And I said, man, that's the only proving my point. It's nothing new. Negroes been selling each other out since the plantation. They sold Nat Turner out, right? Right. So all you telling me is that these Negroes are Sambos for the white man. The white man, the single largest market of purchasing, right, of rap music is white teenagers. So we are marketing our death, our destruction, the hatred of our women, the killing of our brothers and sisters for white folk to laugh and dance and be entertained to, right? So my argument is this: when do we turn a critical eye to this music, right? We can look at research. So what I want to know as a PhD researcher, what does the research say, right? What does the research say? So there's one research in the Journal of Social Psychology that says that exposure to violent rap lyrics, violent rap music increases aggression, right? Increases thoughts of violence, and acceptance of violence as an action. Meaning, yeah, I'm thinking about being violent, and now I think that violence can be an option in this situation. There's other research that says that exposure to violent rap lyrics makes men more aggressive towards women and more accepting of violence towards women, right? But don't we know this? We've been listening to this for 30 years. And then we ask silly ass questions like, man, how can a 12 and 13-year-old go out and kill? How can a 16-year-old in New Orleans East shoot a 65-year-old black woman, a grandmom in the street? How can a 14 and 15-year-old girls, 14 and 15-year-old girls carjack a woman, and as she's trying to hold on to her car, drag her body till her arm rips off from her body? How can these things happen? Well, if they've been listening to music that's going to make them more aggressive, more accepting of violence, and more willing to do violence, then it makes sense. They've been listening to this for the last 30 years in their headphones, walking around, right? And they give you better headphones every year to listen to it. And finally, my argument is this, and I'll leave it at that. My final argument is this: if black people rapped about, or if rappers rapped about killing white people or killing dogs, the way they rapped about killing each other, rap would be banned tomorrow. if a black rapper made a song about killing dogs, do you think Gucci would sponsor him? Do you think all these liquor companies would sponsor them? Do you think YouTube would let their videos stay up? Do you think Spotify would have them as #1? I mean, Mike Vick wasn't even there when they was fighting the dogs. He wasn't even around. It just happened on his property, and they still hate Mike Vick behind a dog. Do you think if rappers replaced the N-word with gay person or the F word, I don't want to say because I don't want to disrespect anybody, but the F word, right? If they replaced it with the F word, how do you think the LGBTQ community would respond? If they made a song like Extashion, I think is his name, Extashion, he had a song called Kill, 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 like the and kill that N word. If we replace the N word with the F word for that song, how do you think the LGBTQ community would respond to it? Right? So why is it okay for this hate speech? So that's what I called it. I called it hate speech. Hate speech is any speech that is used to incite violence or aggression against a certain group of people. And in the United States, hate speech is actually protected under the First Amendment unless hate speech is coupled with an action. So when it's coupled with an action, it becomes a hate crime. So if a white man jumps on me and starts beating me up, and then he says, I hate you effing N-words, that just became a hate crime. Well, for the last 30 years, we've had hate speech and hate crimes being promoted and propagated in our communities, and we wonder why we are the way we are. Right? When I say we, I know some of us do, but too many of our young brothers don't know how to have proper relationships with women anymore because they've been listening to rap music since they were born, you know? And those thoughts and those ideas are in their head. So I said, when you see a brother and he's trying to talk to a sister on the street and she rejects him, no, I don't want you, no, I'm good, I got an old man. And instead of taking it like, all right, cool, whatever, he turns around and he calls her a B and an H. And then where do you think that sentiment came from? You think that's innate? Who put that in him? How did those thoughts come to his mind? Right? Yeah, that's rap music. When they say B's ain't shit, but H's and tricks. If you've been taught that for the last 30 years, of course, so she rejects you about to snap out. But I won't go there first. So that's my argument.
In my conversation with Chokwe Lumumba, I absolutely believe. Like, I don't think it was just gangbanging. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Well,
I don't believe. The guy who's Crip he was a Crip, but the person who told him, the person who, like, they even showed this. Look, the Tupac movie, it was poorly done, but as a historian, what I did like about it is they use a lot of stuff that came from FBI files. So if you remember, after he got shot, you seen all these cops and FBI agents kind of showing their badges. Like, the person who told him to take his vest off was an undercover FBI agent. You know what I'm saying? And like Sugar's absolutely an informant, right? And so my interpretation of what I've researched as a historian, it wasn't just gangbanging. Yes, it was a Crip. Yes, it was a Crip, but it wasn't just Crips and Bloods type stuff. It wasn't Crips and Bloods type stuff. It's just, you know what I'm saying? It was something that came through the LAPD.
Another Sambo Negro being used by white supremacy to take out another black man. And that's rappers too, right? So that's how I see it, right? So even if you are 100% correct on Orlando Anderson being an operative for the CIA to murder Tupac, he is just no more than another Sambo Negro like these rappers who are operatives for whether they are complicit or whether they are aware or not to take out black people. But here's my thing with Tupac and how I got to this. My son is 12. When he was about 11 years old, a few months ago, right? I just bought my son a phone on Monday, right? He didn't have a phone. When you get in my car, you listening to Bob Marley, or you listening to Cornel West, or you listening to WBOK, which is a local talk radio show here, right? Now, when I'm riding in my car or whatever have you, ain't no telling what I'm listening to. I don't really listen to hip hop rap anymore, but I may throw on a little Nas One mic. Right? I may throw on Arrested Development. They had a song, you know, marriage, 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 marriage. And I want to talk about that too, Arrested Development, because that was another point that I missed. But my son, you know, I was talking with him. I said, you know, what kind of music you listening to? And he said, Dad, this rapper. He took my phone and he pulled up a rapper that the kids at school had introduced him to. And when I listened to the song, he was talking about effing somebody's mama. That was part of the chorus. I don't even know the little boy's name, right? So I thought I was doing something intelligent. I said, well, I'm not going to scold my son for this music. I'm going to take him and let him listen to what I think is a good hip hop song. So I put on Tupac's Dear Mama, a song that I thought spoke reverently about his mother. But then I really paid attention to the lyrics. He said, even as a crack fiend mama, you always was a black queen mama. Now, when I first heard that song and I first heard that, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. But at 43, I'm like, you can't be a crackhead, a crack fiend, and a black queen simultaneously. Those things don't go together. Do you know what a crackhead will do for crack? Right? A crackhead will have a heterosexual man doing homosexual activities to get crack. Crack will have a woman sell her body on the street all night to get crack. Crack will have a person break in your house and steal your toaster and your penny jar just to get some crack. It is virtually impossible to be both a black queen and a crack fiend. That was the hypocrisy. So then he comes back in the same, he says, even though I sell rocks, I ain't guilty because it feels good putting money in your mailbox. Wait a minute. If we really, really examine what crackheads do to get crack, and his mother is a crackhead by his admission, and Afeni was a beautiful, intelligent woman who got caught up in a very destructive drug, but by his own admission, he called her a crack fiend. And then he can go out and sell crack rocks, whether he did it or not, or whether it was just part of the verse. But it was the hypocrisy in that verse, right? I don't want my son to think a good excuse for selling drugs is to put money in your crack fiend's mother mail. But I want you to think that going to work is what you need to do. Mom, I need to go to work and figure out how to become a substance abuse counselor so I can counsel you to get you off this drug, not to go in and sell drugs to somebody else's mother.